see dope people.
Welcome back to another episode of Dope People. I am your host, Brooklyn's favorite polymath, Hayden M. Green, and I'm here to interview dope people. It's a pretty simple premise, right? I know some dope people. I want you to know some dope people. And today, I have a really dope person. But before we even get to my guest today, I just want to make sure you understand what the word dope means. It's a throwback term. It means somebody who's great, somebody who's amazing, or something that's amazing. And today's guest is really amazing. I have not known her for that long, but the more that I find out about her, the more I'm impressed. So, ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Charlise Rookwood, the vegansoulicious vegan chef, right? The black vegan chef. All the things.
Hayden, blessings.
Yes, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. This is a really, I know you are super busy, and I'm impressed that you could carve out some time for me.
Hey, it's a pleasure to be on something that's affiliated with the word dope.
Yeah,
Thank you for having me.
absolutely. And I wore my ice golden green shirt.
Appreciate it.
All right. So, Charlize, we normally start off the show with somewhat of a litmus test, and I want to know how you consider dope, what you're thinking of as dope. So, who's the dopest person that you know, whether it's somebody you met one time or somebody that you've known for a long while?
Wow. So many, Hayden.
I know your entourage is pretty
It's
impressive.
tricky. You know what? Coming from like 30 years plus in the music industry, I could be very obvious but I'm not. I'm not going to enter that space. I'm going to say the dopest person I've ever met, been around, is my dad.
Okay.
The dopest person on the planet. Not on the planet anymore, but 100%. 100%.
Now, was your dad in the industry? Did he inspire you to get in the industry? Like, why is he so dope?
Okay. God, how long we got? We ain't got long, have we? All right. So my dad, growing up, was a dancer. So moved from Jamaica to London at a very, very young age. He was the first Black club owner in London in the 70s. And he had this crazy club called Club 7, and Marvin Gaye and Curtis Mayfield and all the greats, when they were touring Europe and came to London, they would go to my dad's club. And he had like girls with bikinis and snakes around their neck. Clearly I wasn't there, I was a baby. So my dad was like, and he was a DJ and a dancer. Everyone knew him about town, and he was a fashion icon. He was a pretty big designer in London and worked at Vivienne Westwood, but he came from rags to riches. The youngest out of 7 siblings, and he got left behind in Jamaica when all the family moved here. And then they sent for him later, but he was being mistreated at home, and he ended up running away. He was living on the streets from age 7 to 9.
Oh, wow.
In East London. And he finally went in. They said to him, like, what do you want to do? You keep running away. We keep having to find you. Something's not right. What do you want to do? And they said, look, do you want to go back home, which we don't think is the right environment? Or do you want to, we've got some great foster parents in the countryside. He said, foster parents. And he made that decision. And he literally went from nothing to everything. So he was my biggest supporter through my years in the music industry. He's the reason why I am vegan. When I lost my dad to stomach cancer 12 years ago, that's when I transitioned into being plant-based. So everything I do is because of him. Everything's in tribute of my dad. He's like my hero, dopest man on the planet. Big shoes to fill.
And what is this dope's man's name?
Wiley Rookwood.
That's an amazing name. That's like one of those names. It's like, I'm gonna remember that.
Right? Like, powerful. When he walks in a room,
That's awesome.
Yeah.
One day, hopefully, my children will say some magnanimous things like that
They
about
most
me.
definitely will. You are an amazing dad. I know this.
I try my best. Try my
You a
best.
dope dad.
Well, Charlize, let me tell you why I think that you're dope. And
Oh,
and one of the interesting things about you is that you are multifaceted. Like I recently found out that you were in the music industry, and I was going to embarrass you by playing a bits and pieces of your clips and stuff like that. But I was like, that's not what's impressive about you.
yeah.
So when you meet vegans, well, us people who are not vegans,
Yeah.
they fall into two buckets basically, generally. Number one bucket is the people who are always complaining about there is nothing to eat because nobody takes care of vegans, right? Or the other bucket of making everybody ashamed of eating what they're eating because they're killing the planet,
Yeah.
right? You don't fall into either one of those buckets, right?
I avoid both of those groups.
Yes. And what's impressive is that you are an advocate and you are a champion for a vegan lifestyle because it's something that you believe in, because you think other people should do it as well. But if people don't adopt that, that's on them, right? Like it's it's almost as if you're saying, look, I'm going to live to a ripe old age and you can continue to kill your body, but you can't say that you didn't know. That's my job. My job is to make sure that you know these things and you don't make it a thing. I remember the first time that we were in a social setting together, I was like, I got to hurry up and eat these wings before Charlize gets here because I don't want to offend her. I don't want to offend her. And you were like, I don't care.
What? Please listen.
This is what's good for me. This is my mission. This is my journey.
It is so important for me to just meet everybody where they are. My journey is my journey, and I respect that. There's no one vegan in my family, Hayden.
Yeah, yeah, and that's tough too, right? Like you're
Yeah.
the only one.
You just have to be respectful and mindful, and not everything is for everybody, you know. And
Agreed.
that's okay. I think if anything, Hayden, I get criticized more by vegans than non-vegans. Like those groups you spoke on, oh, they come for me all the time.
You're not hard enough on people.
I'm like, chill out, guys. Are you so mad? Why are you so mad?
Well,
Where's
listen,
the peace and love? Where's all the judgment coming from?
and that's really what normally you associate it, right? Like if you're vegan,
Stereotypical. Yeah.
people supposed to be peaceful and loving and want to save the earth
Yeah.
and your body and all the rest of stuff, but they tend to be on the other end of the spectrum and quite
There's
angry.
there's some aggressive vegans out there, dude.
Well, I'm happy to know that you are not one of those aggressive vegans.
Uh-uh.
Well, Charlize, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we will talk a little bit about what dope thing you're doing. I know that you can pull from a long list of things, but I want to hear from myself. And we will be back in, as Chuck U. Woolery used to say, 2 shakes of a lamb still. Rest in peace, Chuck Woolery. We'll be right back.
Okay.
I see dope people.
And we are back with Dope People, and I am your host, Hayden Green, still Brooklyn's favorite polymath. I'm telling you, there's not another polymath in Brooklyn that people like more. But today, I am joined by Charlize, who is the black vegan chef, and we're having a great time so far. But Charlize, I want to hear what dope thing you're doing. Now, it could be something you do on a regular basis, like I create cooking classes for people who don't know how to cook, or it could be that one time I cooked a Thanksgiving Day dinner for a group of people. Like, what dope thing do you do?
One. One thing.
Well, let's start with
Okay.
one.
Okay. Okay, two things come to mind, but let's just start with the one thing.
Okay.
Okay, so I would say outside of like, TV and then Today's Show and everything that's got all the kind of the bells and the whistles on it. I think the one thing that I'm really proud of that kind of came about the end of last year, it's my online virtual cooking classes.
Mm.
I do a lot of things on TV, so there can be quite a bit of a disconnect for me with being with people in my community, and I'm making a big shift with that this year and being more present in person. So Taraji Henson has a foundation called the Boris Lawrence Henson Foundation,
Mm-hmm.
which basically provides free mental health care for African Americans. So whether it be a therapist, yoga, a gazillion things that you need that fall under that umbrella. And she approached me and said, like, we have these beautiful wellness pods that they've built. They've built one on Alabama campus and also one at Hampton University, and they're about to build one at Harvard. And these wellness pods are on the lawn, on the green, and students can sign up for free and sign up for yoga, sign up for a therapist, a psychologist, a cooking class. So the whole wellness pod is based on mental health and mood. And I had a long conversation with Taraji, and she said, food is mood. And I said, absolutely. Food has a huge effect on our mental state of mind. A lot of people don't realize that you are what you eat in that sense. So we created this class called Food is Mood. And I do that twice a week online, which is amazing because I have like super young, bright, articulate Black students, predominantly girls in the class. The boys are starting to trickle in now because they're starting to hear about it. And we just do our virtual classes. I incorporate just ingredients. Like if it's like a crazy semester and they've all got exams, I'll be like, okay, so this class, we're going to do a class based on herbs and minerals and things that are going to help with your concentration, help you wake up feeling brighter, give you something to sustain you through the day without feeling like lethargic and tired. So these classes, I didn't realize like how much of a positive impact they were going to have, especially just being virtual. I'm trying to do the least amount of things virtual, but they have been amazing. Like Thursdays are like one of my favorite days of the week, giving back to the community, giving back to the students. Yeah, that's something that I am super proud of at the moment.
And I think that's really, in addition to what it is that you're cooking, I think the act of cooking is so therapeutic.
Yeah,
One thing you probably don't know about me is that I love to cook as well.
I knew
Um,
it.
and every Thanksgiving, people wait to see what my menu is because I post a whole long list of things that I will be cooking during Thanksgiving. I've actually been on a cooking show one time. We'll talk about that, but this is about you. But one of the things that I
Because
love
you're
about
creative.
right, exactly.
Yeah.
One of the things that I love is just like thinking about what you want your meal to be and figuring out what ingredients go into it, how you want to cut things, because if you cut a carrot one way, it'll cook one way. And if you cut it another way, it'll cook in an entirely different way. And really just thinking all the way through that. And that whole process helps you to take yourself out of the normal world and you just have to focus on this meal,
Yeah,
right?
just being intentional.
Yeah.
The minute you pay attention, it changes everything, and it's so much more satisfying at the end.
Yeah. There's nothing better than saying, this is what I want to taste at the end of this process, and then getting to the end and it tastes exactly the way that you wanted it to taste.
And
That
I did this. I did this.
absolutely, absolutely. So what was the second thing?
Second thing, I would say my cookbook that comes out in May 2025. I never thought in a million years that I would ever have a cookbook.
Hmm.
First and foremost, because I detest cookbooks. I don't like them. Um, I have a ton because I buy and support all my friends' cookbooks.
Right.
I don't open them again. There's just something about following instructions that I don't know, it just takes the whole feeling away for me. So you can
Mhm.
imagine how challenging. So it was really challenging for me to make this book, because my brain is not wired that way. I'm just more of a put the music on and feel and throw. And don't
Yep.
ask me how I made, don't ask me how I made it. Just, I don't know. It is what it is. It
Right.
tastes every single time. So this cookbook was a massive. It was a massive challenge for me, for just so many reasons. Even like the word count of the amount of how much I had to write, I was just like, "What? This is crazy." I'm a creative and I'm a freestyler, so I'm not great with structure. But this process taught me a lot, and I'm super proud at how it's come together. It's not a cookbook; it's a story about my ancestors, and
Yeah. Yeah.
it's a journey, and it happens to have some recipes in it, and a great scannable playlist that
Love that.
you
Like
could
this
do
is
it.
the music that you have to
Yeah,
listen to
press
while making
play.
this dish,
Now
or
get
else it
into
won't come
it.
out right.
Yeah. So I'm super excited. I did some great collaborations in it, and managed to just carve together like my dream team, like black photographer, black food stylist, prop stylist, assistant. Like my whole team was homegrown, Brooklyn. It was very important for me to have a team that understood the vision, the purpose, and
Yeah.
what we were doing. So yeah, I'm super proud, excited for next year. Fingers crossed. Let's see.
Listen, you'll at least sell one copy to us. Like the Green family will have a Charlise cookbook,
Woo!
and I understand that concept that cookbooks are really 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 tough, and it's hard to really think about what your process is.
It
I
is hard.
I asked my mother to come over and teach me how to fry bake,
Oh, I've
and
got those in the book for you can read.
I make decent fry bake, but
Yeah.
my mother comes over and does some sort of magic, and hers comes out so much better than mine. And I was like, all right, let's stop the madness. Come show me step by step exactly what you do.
Yeah.
And everything was, you put a little of this, put some more. No, not so much. And it's like, but you're not giving me any instructions.
But Hayden, that was me doing this cookbook. I think I drove Abrams, my publishers. I think they were terrified once they actually saw how I functioned in the kitchen.
Oh Lord.
The first 2 days, I think they were so like panicked.
Yes.
But I had an amazing team, and they were very patient, and they understood. I'm not a Michelin star chef from a restaurant who works in a robotic way. Um, but we got it done, and I was in the middle of a divorce. I was moving home. There was a lot happening. Uh,
Mm,
but they say, your best work comes from when you're in some of your hardest and darkest places. And
under
this book
stress.
definitely has been born and made from a crazy time.
Well, we can't wait to see it. We can't wait to see it. Well, I want to thank you so much for sharing all of that stuff, and we end every show with a moment in history. And since I've got a chef on the show, I wanted to talk a little bit about food. Does the
Mm.
name Thomas Downing sound familiar to you?
Yes.
And what do you know about Thomas Downing?
Not as much as you do, so I'm listening.
Well, Thomas Downing was known as New York City's Oyster King. Um, he was born to enslaved parents, and he and his family gained their freedom when their enslaver realized that slavery was against the Methodist religion. So he freed all of them. He went into the Navy, and ended up in Philadelphia, and then started to get into oystering and catching oysters and having oyster shops and stuff like that. But it's not until he came to New York City and he opened up what was called Thomas Downing Oyster House in the Five Points area of New York City. And what he did was he added a certain level of sophistication. Everybody, during that time in the 1800s, he opened it up in 1825. And during that time, if you got your oysters from anywhere, it was kind of like a dive bar. It was kind of
Yeah.
seedy. but he had white linen and elevated menus and all the rest of that stuff. And at the heyday, he became one of the richest people in the country, not just New York City, in the
Yeah.
country, and known as the Oyster King. But what's really interesting is that he was also a stop on the Underground Railroad. So he was an abolitionist. And so enslaved people who were seeking freedom would stop off in his restaurant in order to head out to freedom, some to Canada and to
Wow.
other states. So they would be hiding downstairs in the restaurant.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah. And so what's always ironic about the Oyster House, the Thomas Downing Oyster House, is that uh, people who were dining there did not know it was owned by an enslaved man, right? So they didn't know, and they didn't realize that their meals, the money that they spent in that establishment, was going to abolish slavery. And what's tragic about this is that he was never a citizen of this country. He was never allowed to be a citizen. The Civil Rights Act passed on the day after he died. It's
Stop.
crazy. Yeah, it's crazy.
The day
So,
after he passed.
yep. So he never got the opportunity to be a citizen of this country, even though he gave so much to it and was so much part of the
That is
fabric. So,
so sad.
yeah,
Do you
yeah.
know the actual address?
I can find it. It's
And I'm curious.
seven Pearl Street. I have to find it. I have it.
It's
I have the
Pearl
information. Huh?
Street.
And that would be too on the nose, right?
What?
Pearls and oysters. I'll put it in the notes, right?
Yeah.
But yeah. So, but yeah. So Thomas Downing, one of the greatest entrepreneurs in New York City, and the restaurant closed, I think, in 1971, because by that time all of the oyster beds in New York City were gone because of pollution. So the business went out.
That's
Yeah.
insane. It's so crazy because my food photographer, Clay Williams, he was talking about him on set, because he's like, my photographer does shoots a lot of seafood and travels around everywhere, and he was actually talking about him, and that was the first time I'd ever heard of him.
It's an amazing story. Amazing story.
Wow, I'm gonna have to delve into that. Thank you so much, Hayden.
That's a movie that needs to be made.
That is a movie
That
that
needs to
needs to be made.
Yep,
I'll
yep,
leave
yep.
that one to you. You got the cameras.
Yeah. I'll add it to the to-do list.
Add it to the list.
So, Charlise, how can people find you? How can people support you? Where do the people need to look?
You know what? I know there's so many different places on social media to be. I just sit at Instagram, vegansoulicious. I don't really get into all the other. I, there's just not enough hours in the day.
There
I
are.
know there's the TikToks and the YouTubes, and I know I should, but I'm just, I'm on Instagram. I post my life there. If there are events coming up and things that people need to know about, it's all there. Vegan Soulish.
Yeah, there's something to be said for like keeping it streamlined.
Yeah, my brain can't do any much more.
I get it, and you got a fabulous Instagram. I'm like, that's the life. That life over there. I'm gonna take a snippet out of this life. That's where I need life goes.
Oh, yeah, that's like a section. Yeah, that's the nice section I share.
Indeed.
But yeah, I'm going to be sharing. I'm going to start doing some pop-ups towards the end of the year, so people are going to be able to taste my food, and I'm going to be sharing those on social. They're all going to be Brooklyn-based. I wanted to do it sooner, but there wasn't time. But I thought, right, let's start now.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show. For those of you watching, if you enjoyed this interview, please like, subscribe, save, share, do all the things. And if you know someone who should be a dope person on the show, please get in contact with us, and we'll get them on as soon as possible. Charlise, again, thank you so much for being on, and we will be back next week with another dope person. But until then, go forth and be dope.